welcome back to the channel. Science fiction movies. No, those three words mean so many different things to so many different people. For some of us it's pew pew, good versus evil, magic, samurais in outer space. For others it's utopian space exploration that lets the filmmakers critique American foreign policy.
There's an old Vulcan proverb. Only Nixon could go to China.
For others, it's creepy monsters in spaceships.
I want to eat your face.
But to think that those three things are the only kind of science fiction movie is like thinking that Starbucks is the only kind of coffee. It isn't even good coffee. Tom Shippey describes science fiction as the literature of change. And science fiction is at its heart about the impact of revolutionary or evolutionary change on human beings or other thinking beings. So now that I've info dumped that on you, here are three science fiction movies that are small in scale but are about characters under life-changing stress being impacted by alterations to their world. The first and the last one are from non-white creators, and the middle one shows that you can do a lot with 8 actors, 1 house, and very minimal special effects. Jennifer Pong's 2015 low-budget science fiction movie Advantageous was co-written with the movie star Samantha Kim. Samantha Kim plays a woman called Gwen, who's the spokesperson for a biotech company called the Center for Advanced Health and Living, which is a very David Cronenberg kind of name for a company.
Here at the Center for Advanced Health and Living, we are working to offer you the safest alternatives to invasive cosmetic surgery.
Gwen lives in a subtly dystopian future where the birth rates are low and corporations run the whole show. The role of women in society is being undermined by those at the top. Gwen is sacked from her lucrative spokesperson job because she's aging, and the corporates have decided that the spokesperson for their company should be younger and more racially ambiguous.
We're obligated to go a different direction for the face of the center.
Am I too old?
Gwen also has a 13-year-old daughter, Jules, played by Samantha Kim, who's intelligent and talented. To get Jules into a school that will enable her to have a future where she'll thrive in the sexist and competitive world they live in, Gwen needs money. Her company has a new product which may well provide a solution. A technology that transfers the minds of people into younger, healthier bodies. Gwen suggests to the company that as their spokesperson, she can also be an example of how effective this technology can be, if they let her use it. There are some significant downsides to this technology, some of which we know early on, some of which we learn later in the film. For a year, she'll have to take injections to help her with breathing issues, and there will be persistent pain as well. Advantageous gives us a realistic future world. The weather forecasts, for instance, have how much dioxin there is in the environment as part of the forecasts. And terrorist bombings are so common that people barely notice them when they happen in the distance. Phones are used, but they have no physical handset, and digital assistants are ubiquitous. Though Gwen learns that they might not be the AI apps that everybody thinks they are, but real human beings working somewhere remotely. In this future, families are thinned out by the lower birth rate, and Gwen is estranged from her only family, her cousin Lily, played by Jennifer Akita. The supporting cast is pretty good. It includes Ken Jeong as Gwen's cousin's husband, and James Urbaniak, who people know best for playing the voice of Dr. Venture in the Venture Brothers cartoons, as her friend Fisher, who also works for the company and may have had a relationship with Gwen in the past. When Gwen becomes Gwen 2.0, unexpected problems emerge with Jules and with both of them as they find out the true nature of this technology and the problems it creates in their relationship. In a science fiction context, this movie looks at the worst case scenarios for a lot of contemporary social issues. Ageism, sexism, racism, workplace discrimination, the gender income gap, and the sacrifices that parents make for their children. Richard Wang's cinematography makes the world look really lived in. combining real-life locations with computer-generated cityscapes. Advantageous' world building is much better than you'd expect from a low-budget film. It's actually based on a short film Jennifer Pong and Jacqueline Kim made in 2012, which I've got to admit I haven't seen. For some people, the pacing of this is going to seem too slow. But I kind of like the measured revealing of the characters and the plots and the complexities you get in this. The movie gave me time to digest the subtleties of the world and to think about the cruelty of the unseen men who rule it. In particular, check out the ubiquitous surveillance the company uses when Gwen talks to Fisher about the process and he tries to talk her out of it. And Fisher is an interesting character because he is guilt-ridden and in a lot of pain because of the egregious things he does to keep his job. Working in the Advantageous world is a nightmare for everybody involved who isn't sitting at the top. This one's science fiction for grown-ups, a tough and compassionate film informed by the worldview and life experience of people who have often been discriminated against in our world. So stop rewatching Alien vs Predator and check out Advantageous. I know here in Australia it's currently on SBS On Demand, and it may well be on a streaming service where you live. So check it out. Like I said, it's slow, it's measured, it's not pew pew bang bang zoom zoom. It's a thinking science fiction film. A science fiction movie with a $50,000 budget shot over 5 nights in one house with 8 actors who are improvising their dialogue based on some guidelines the director gives them should never work. But Coherence does. The concept behind it is solid and creepy, and the ensemble really does make it feel lived in. 8 friends are at a dinner party to celebrate and to watch the passing of Miller's comet, a comet which is passing the Earth. Right from the start, something weird starts happening. One of the guests, M, played by Emily Foxler, looks at her phone and the screen just suddenly cracks. As the guests assemble together and they do the usual chit-chat and catching up and the little jokes between each other, the power goes out. Fortunately, the house has a generator, and when the lights come back on, they look around the neighbourhood out of the windows and can only see one other house with lights. The group decides that they're going to go to the other house and see if they can use their phone because all of their phone and their internet is out at the moment. And so a couple of them wander off to the other house to see whether they can get some help. That's where the problems start. They go to the other house, only it's the same house they were in. To get from one house to the other, they pass through a very dark patch of ground. And as they slowly discover, each time someone passes through that patch, they travel to an alternate reality from the moment when the comet started passing the Earth. That comet has fractured reality, and timelines are constantly splitting off. Every choice and decision the individuals and the group make creates a new reality and a new house. Other versions of the 8 people are wandering around outside, and if someone leaves the house and travels toward the other house, there's no guarantee that the one who comes back is the same person who left. Friendships and relationships start to fracture, secrets are revealed, paranoia ramps up, and things do not end well for some of the characters. The director James Ward Burkett does a great job of pacing the revelations of what's going on and the way that the actors and the characters handle it. Handheld camera work was a deliberate choice because it let the actors move around freely while they improvised their dialogue instead of getting them to hit certain marks on the floor and anchoring them to those places. The short production time was made necessary because Burkett used his own house, and at the time they filmed it, his wife was 8.5 months pregnant. So the clock was ticking and she gave him an ultimatum saying, "You've got 5 days to do this. I can't do it over a month. I won't be here in a month, I'll be having a baby." So it was a difficult film to make. And Coherence isn't a perfect film, but it's an interesting one. The idea at the core of the film is solid and a bit mind-blowing, and the actors deliver the story well. The ending is horrific in a way, and incredibly difficult in some other ways, and it implies a whole bunch of things that are going to happen after the action we see in the movie. Movies like this show that science fiction movies don't have to cost as much as a new school. They don't have to be arse deep in special effects. Actors don't have to hit the gym for a year to look buff enough to be in these films. With science fiction, story is everything. And anyone who tells you anything different probably works for Disney. There is just so much to love in this film. The movie was directed and written by Daniel Wang and Daniel Schneider, who label themselves as the Daniels. Michelle Yeoh plays Evelyn, a woman who runs a laundromat with her husband Wayman, played by Ke Huy Quan. And they're having their taxes audited. They're busy. Evelyn is run flat out off her feet. They're caring for Evelyn's aged father, Gong Gong, played by the iconic legend who is James Hong. And Evelyn's relationship with her daughter, Joy, played by Stephanie Sui, is really troubled. Joy is gay and is introducing the family to her girlfriend, Becky, and she's trying to work out what she wants to do with her life in her own terms. The tax audit is not going well. Their IRS agent, Deidre, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, is possibly going to foreclose on the laundromat because Evelyn has claimed her hobbies as business expenses and her whole life is totally going to shit. That is, until an alternate universe version of Wayman introduces her to the multiverse and a myriad different versions of Evelyn and the people around her. She then finds herself being hunted by the ultimate evil in the multiverse, a being known as Jobu Tupaki. That's the setup for this movie, and the less you know about the details of the movie, the better. I will hint at some things here, but I'm not going to do enormous spoilers for it. The movie delivers on so many levels. It has a lot more butt plugs in it than I expected as well. There's a Wong Kar-wai alternate universe that's breathtakingly beautiful. If you know the movies of Wong Kar-wai, you're going to love that part of the film. If you don't, you're still going to love it. The Pixar universe is hilarious. The Rock universe is oddly touching. And the Hot Dog universe is gross and endearing at exactly the same time. The breakout star in this film is Ke Huy Quan, who everybody remembers played the kid short round in the second Indiana Jones movie, but who's an actor of incredible depth and talent, who is having his moment in the sunshine at the age of 50. He really does anchor this film more than I expected him to. And of course, Michelle Yeoh is wonderful. She's always wonderful. And for a hyperkinetic, surrealistic, fast-paced, imaginative science fiction action movie like this, to have so many deeply touching character moments is a really admirable achievement. Every character in every universe is flawed, but I grew to love each one of them as the movie progressed, and I didn't expect to. I also love the fact that one of the minor characters has some sexual kinks which are, within the comedic context, treated kind of respectfully. There is just so much to love in this movie. It's human, it's humane, it's humanist, and it talks a lot about the difficulties and also the wonderfulness of just living your life. The movie looks fantastic. The special effects work is top notch. It was produced by the Russo brothers, who made some of the best MCU movies. And the movie was shot by the Daniels in a very smart way. A lot of the sequences were filmed at a very high frame rate. That frame rate enables the movie makers to use speed ramping and to speed up and slow down the action in post-production as part of that editing process. That's such a simple but brilliant thing to do because they can avoid motion blur as they manipulate the timing of the action. And modern cinema cameras can do that innately. It's not like they had to get anything special to do it, but it really works incredibly well. In the scenes where Evelyn is traveling backwards on a chair that you see in the trailer, they were able to use that ability to change the frame rate to film that not with computer generated effects, but to film it in camera in a wonderful way and to give it a look that makes it distinct and different than things you've seen in other movies. Now, I've said before on the channel that I'm really passionate about movies that are about other people's stories. Everything Everywhere All at Once tells an immigrant story, but it tells it in the context of a kick-ass, funny, dramatic, and really touching action film. Plus, it's got James Hong in it. You should see this movie right now if you haven't already. It is one of my favourite movies that I've seen in 2022. So that's it for this time around. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I want to hear what you thought of these films. and any other recent science fiction movies within the last 15 years that you'd really recommend. I'm anxious to hear what other people think about stuff. You can also support the channel by going to patreon.com/paleocinema. And if you do, the Patreon supporters get scripts from any of the videos that I script, and also extra movie reviews in written form. That's it for this time around. Look after yourself, stay safe. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Watch some small science fiction movies, because they're not always going to be exactly your cup of tea. But undoubtedly, at some stage, you're going to find a number of them that you will recommend to your friends. So anyway, take care of yourselves, and you'll catch me next time.